Banger.
Cool. Hello, welcome to a Ruddy Esports interview that is in a slightly different location. We're in a hotel in the middle of somewhere that I won't reveal the location of because it might lead to compromise in security.
Yeah, I'd appreciate you not compromising my security.
It's flashing on screen right now, just above our heads right now. That's in the post. Hopefully you're out of here by the time that we do that. Cool. So I wanted to just say Gabriel Rao. I think I'm pronouncing that right.
It's good enough.
Good enough. Welcome.
Gabriel works fine. But
Gabriel.
Yeah, that's the English pronunciation.
I was kind of putting a little bit of a Brazilian twist on it, you know?
No, it's the other way around. Brazilian people say Gabriel.
Oh, really?
And then English people say Gabriel.
I don't know ball like that. I don't know ball at all. That's crazy from me.
There you go.
But welcome to the Ruddy X the Sack interview, the place where it's all sack and no dick. And let's stop dicking around. Let's get right into the interview almost immediately. Born to a Brazilian mother and a Belgian father.
Correct.
Would it be fair to say that your mother dancing the samba during her childhood in Belo Horizonte is where you got your movement from?
I was waiting for what the fuck where that came from. No, I don't think that's fair to say at all. But yeah. I mean, maybe, I guess, yeah. When I was a kid, I used to, like, dance around in the shower and shit, and my parents thought it was fucking funny, so I kept doing it, too.
You had a punishment that your mum gave you revolving with around the shower, didn't you? With a cold shower.
No, I don't remember that. Did I ever say that? I don't fucking know. I could have. I don't think my mom ever
she told you to behave yourself.
No, she never did that, actually. Fun fact. Never. Okay. I don't know where you got that from, but...
Okay.
Not true whatsoever. Not that I remember. I don't think my mom ever made me take a cold shower that I can remember. Yeah, my mom wasn't really on punishment.
Fair enough. But in any case, at the beginning of your career, you were a very high-ranked PvP player in World of Warcraft on the Magtheridon server, weren't you?
I wasn't very high-ranked. I mean, I was on that server, I guess, but I wasn't very high-ranked relative to other actually good players. I was 2,500 or something, so I take it, you know. I was, like, among the highest-ranked players
amongst mortal men like myself. It's impressive, I suppose.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, so that's true. That's correct. I was, but I'd say all things considered, I was still pretty shit.
That's fair enough. I mean, my question then relates to, I mean, you played World of Warcraft, you also played RuneScape when you were a bit younger as well. That's correct, yeah. I mean, these are games in which often people are forced into subjugation. I'm not talking about the Trundle where they're forced to sort of into internal labour camps and farm WoW gold and stuff like that. And I just wanted to ask, were you, during a young age, I view you as quite a politically conscious and sort of cerebrally aware young man, were you aware of the wider political and social context of some of these games that you were playing as a young man?
Absolutely no fucking clue, man. I was just playing video games. I was just farming gold. Like, I wasn't even farming, dude. I did whatever the fuck I wanted.
Yeah.
When I played RuneScape, I PK'd a lot.
Yeah.
So obviously, like, I mean, as a cerebrally, I don't even know what the fuck you called me.
Cerebrally aware.
And there we go. You slipped up as well.
Get me on
like,
the LEC
there we go.
analyst desk, mate.
No, like
they'd eat that
cerebrally aware. Jesus, that's a tough one. Yeah, no, I just fucking loved doing shit that no one else wanted to do. So when I played RuneScape, there was a stat. There's 3 melee stats: there's strength, attack, and defense. So my account had the highest defense because everyone fucking hated defense, and I thought it was funny. And I'd kill people, and I know they'd look at my account and be like, "This fucking guy is an absolute retard for like maxing out defense first." And I had like low ass strength, which is like supposed to increase your odds of killing people.
Which is like, it's quite ironic because do you think in that any way relates to, because when you came through, I think one of the reasons you sort of replaced on Fnatic was that you were willing to do stuff that no one was really else.
Yeah, I did it with joy.
Play the Rise bot, stuff like this.
Yeah, dude, I did it with joy. I want to make people look at me like, either I want try-hard players to look at me and go like, this fucking cunt, you know, like that reaction is what I want. Like, fuck this guy. Like, that's the first reaction. That is what I got into gaming, like online gaming, right? So I got into gaming like on Nintendo, like everyone else, like a child, right?
Mario Party, I think you played a lot.
Yeah, Mario Party, Pokemon, shit like this, right? GameCube shit, like PS2 shit, like single player games or with your friends, so it wasn't really sweaty. But when I started getting into actual online gaming, that is what drew me to PvP games. Yeah. Is the fact that I wanted either the sweat lords to go like,
Did any of that come from, because I know you played a lot of COD 4 growing up, did that come from when you kill someone in COD, you can hear their voice for a few seconds?
So the thing is my brother was sweaty as hell in that game.
Yeah.
He was sweaty as hell. So I would take everything that he complained about, because I knew he was really sweaty. Everything he complained about was my layout, and then I would kill other sweaters, and they'd be fucking pissed.
So you're definitely like a one-man army.
Oh yeah, I just got fun on my own way. 100%. Playing, 100%. Like, the thing is, I knew they were like kind of newbie, and that's exactly why I ran them, because it would piss people off, and I didn't really give a shit. You know, like I wasn't particularly good, and didn't need to be. That's how I drew my fun. And then when I got good, at certain games. Never Call of Duty. I was never good at that game. I was just like, I had like a 2.0 KD, just running around rushing people and pissing them off,
Yeah.
Running around with that stupid ass shotgun. I forgot what the name is. Like Spaz 12 or something.
Yeah, something like that.
It one-tapped you in melee range, so it was completely unbalanced.
God, those games were so fun.
So I would just run around with all the stupid shit, and I would just kill people. I was like 2.0. I wasn't very good, but I wasn't terrible either, Like I said, I was good enough to have fun pissing people off. Now, what I really enjoyed in gaming, what I discovered is I wanted other people to see me play things and go like, dude, no one else plays that. This guy's cool.
Yeah.
I want to try that. So another example is in World of Warcraft, there was a talent called Gag Order. And this was in the defensive tree, so no one ever fucking looked at the defensive tree, because again, PvP game, everyone wants to deal damage. And I looked at the defensive tree, and it silenced you. So there's a little thing where you can channel an ability as a caster in World of Warcraft, and you have a kick. Warriors kick is called Pummel. It had a 10-second cooldown, and if you hit the kick, you'd lock someone out for 4 seconds. That talent locked someone out for 3 seconds blanket. So I was dog shit at kicking. I knew I was, and everyone made fun of me. So I started playing that talent every single time, and it was just a mainstream thing. So I would just run around missing kicks, knowing that it would trigger the shit out of people because I was bad, right?
Yeah.
At doing it, and it like triggers people that you're bad at it. Like, the sweaters get triggered if you're bad at kicking. They really they fume when you're bad at kicking.
It's like people that DJ on CDJs instead of vinyls. It's like
I have no idea what that means, but I agree.
It's like non-purist. Like it's
exactly non-purist. It's like you're not doing it the way you're supposed to.
Yeah.
And people got so mad when I did it intentionally. I intentionally started missing my kick because I knew it silenced. And I would just blank it. I would just kick them, without even them casting, just to silence them. And they would just get so mad. And honestly, there was no better feeling.
It's like a Fiora throwing W backwards.
I mean, honestly, it's worse. It's Fiora just Wing you, knowing she doesn't have to fucking hit it. And wins anyway.
Just for poking lane.
Just a poking lane, or even worse, when she all-ins you, she knows she can just W nothing and still win.
That's so funny.
That is exactly the feeling that I was giving people when I was playing Warrior and Warrior.
And how did that transition into League? Because I know when you played League, it's sort of like, ironically, in contrast to that, you played a lot of like very high fidelity champions like Jace, a lot of GP was what you came up when you were like 15, 16.
Yeah, I mean, that came later though. Like I was definitely like a bruiser, like tanky, beefy player. Like the first champion I was ever drawn by playing I was watching my brother play. Yeah. And he was playing Ezreal, and he was just explaining me, and then Gragas threw his ult, and it was like, dude, I saw his ultimate, and the graphics were just like awful. So it looked like to me, it looked like he threw like a glue bomb, like he like threw a massive glue explosion. Like he would root everyone and deal like massive damage.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, exactly. Like from Worms. It looked just really weird. And I was like, holy shit, I need to play Gragas because it was like a massive, like back then his ult explosion was actually massive, by the way. It was bigger than it is right now, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. But I'm pretty sure the radius was bigger.
We'll get our editor to look that up on the wiki.
But it was like this man, and I was like, I have to play Gragas. So I tried to play Gragas. Turns out you have to like wait weeks, if you don't have the IP. So
God, that's a memory. I remember when I first played League in Season 3, I was like, I really wanted to play Shaco, and I couldn't be bothered to wait, and it was a 3150 or a 1350.
A 3150,
and I charged my mum's credit card to buy it, which is so ridiculous now, because it's like, it was like either €7 or 1350.
Yeah.
And you think about what that, €7 should be like, multiple hundreds of thousands of IP. Like
you got scammed, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, scammed myself.
Well, yeah, true. So I didn't do that because I was like, I didn't know if I liked the game yet. Mordekaiser was free. So I played Mordekaiser. It was my very first champion. And actually, I was a big Mordekaiser player all the way to level 30, which, I mean, I guess that makes me not a very big Mordekaiser player. But that's I would keep playing Mordekaiser.
Getting to level 30 is like sitting through 8 Lord of the Rings movies back in the day. Like, that took a while.
I think it's more than that, to be honest with you. I think it's way more. It took me like months,
getting
honestly.
level 30 was like a thing over years.
Yeah, I know, right? Like 8 Lord of the Rings movies. Sure. But so I was a Mord player, and that was like Mord for me even back then. He was a bit more durable than like Jace Gangplank, like you mentioned. So I was definitely more about durable champions. It's later that I started playing like Lee. I would play Lee, Gragas, and Blitzcrank. So I went from Mordekaiser to Lee, Gragas, Blitz, and I would exclusively almost play these 3 champs because I was just like, well, sometimes I'm, back in the day, you queue up and you fucking write in chat what role you get, and sometimes you're just slow, or your PC is worse than the others.
There's a little tangent for you here because I think that's a very interesting point. Do you think that there's a weakness implicit in how the modern game in the EU West is played by the fact that we're not forced to diversify in the roles that we have to play? Because back in the day, it would be expected that maybe your main role you're getting 70% of the time, 60%, but you have to put games in on this stuff.
I think 100%. I think even globally, I think having knowledge of all the roles is invaluable. I mean, at the end of the day, knowing how another champion wants to behave in the game is extremely important.
Yeah.
Because like certain champions, they like to use their spells first, and certain champions do not like to use their spells first. Like for example, look at Lee Sin, right? Lee Sin's a really good example of this, where depending on the scenario, he's going to want to throw his kick first to burst someone, or he's going to want to hold it in order to secure his burst in certain angles. Like it depends on the angle of the fight. It depends on his burst, right? So like for example, if you're ganking a tank, Lee Sin doesn't want to start with kicking him.
Yeah.
He wants to kick him when he is in execute range, right? And the execute range for tanks may be closer to 60% or 50%. So if you're trying to set up a gang for Lee, you're going to want to use your CC first, burst the guy really hard, and then Lee Sin will finish him off with a one-shot combo, right? Similar champions like that exist where they just change the angle of the fight depending on the situation, right? So for example, someone like Nico, she doesn't give a shit. She throws all her spells, hope it works. Yeah. Always.
So, in light of that information, what do you think can be a remedy for some of the weaknesses that we feel? Because I think for sure, like it's a prognosis you can make of the region that the people's lack of knowledge of other roles. Oh, yeah. And you, as a shining example of this, in that you play top and you've played jungle.
Yeah. Well,
what can people do? Is it they need to role swap? Do we need to see people more committed to playing other roles in solo queue? Like, where does it?
Yeah,
come from?
I think it's a global thing though, so it's not a big deal. I think there's plenty of players that just don't have that much knowledge.
We need to do things better than other regions.
Oh yeah, sure. Like I said, like for me, I think off seasons are the perfect angle. You know? Like in my free time, I spend a lot of I spend most of my free time that I spend, the hours that I do spend that are not working on my job, I spend with my girlfriend, and I actually play more League, and I often play champions that are in different roles. Like for example, I would play Lucian if I'm AD carry. I would play champions that I've never touched top lane, like Riven. Like, that Riven that came out of nowhere is because I was just playing with my girlfriend, and suddenly, like, after months of spending my time in my free time playing with her, I have 100 games of Riven racked up, And all of a sudden, I'm like, wait, I'm actually pretty good at this champ, and some motherfucker blind picks Vladimir. I'm like, that ain't going to slide,
That's got to be the first time a coach has ever been happy about a player having a girlfriend. Just to hear him be can you play this champ? And he's be like, yeah, you've been practicing it, mate. Don't worry about it.
100%. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not perfect by any means, but it's serviceable. And the point is, I think if you're playing other champions from all your teammates' roles, you don't have to be good enough to know how they play. Yeah. You have to be good enough to understand what they're thinking. Yeah. Right? You just need to know, what is my teammate thinking?
It's having the room to conceptualize.
As a jungler and as a support, I think it's highly important. I think it's actually a thing you should do. As solo laners and AD, I don't think it's as important, because I do think as AD, I mean, if you can't tell how Rakan wants to play the game, if you've played 100 games with him as an AD carry...
Good luck at McDonald's.
I agree. There's bigger issues. So that's why I think that for jungle and support especially, knowing which gank angles are good. Also, knowing when you actually want interaction in your lane. Like, a lot of junglers, they pick Lee Sin, and then, they're it's Orianna meta, but they don't want to pivot their pick. They pick Lee anyway because Lee's good. They play Lee Orianna, and then there's this jungler that's constantly forcing ganks on an Orianna lane, and meanwhile the Orianna player is like, dude, leave me the fuck alone. I just want to slowly build my advantage. I don't want to have to move from my lane. I don't want to constantly roam around and follow on plays that you're forcing. I just want you to jungle a solid game, just hold the fort and let me scale. And I think that type of misunderstanding between each other is also something that comes from, just not understanding each other's role. BDS, this Worlds, they played Olaf Rumble matchup. Olaf has priority. We leverage the Olaf priority to walk into enemy topside jungle and invade. Brother, Olaf does not want to fucking do that in that matchup. If I'm playing that game, I would yell at my jungler after, not yell at him, I'd calmly suggest, hey brother, I'm in a very difficult matchup. I have priority in the first 3 levels, and if I don't use that to recall and leverage the gold that I gained to get some magic resistance, Rumble's gonna fucking rail me. And it's not even about that. It's just you're gonna get railed by Rumble if you don't actually spend that gold. That's just something that happens. You can't just invade, hover, and then walk back to lane and just lane. No, he will fuck you.
That BDS Down 1 series is one of the rudest things I've ever seen.
It was rough, and I'm saying that these type of knowledge things, right? Yeah. Because the Rumble knows that that's the case. He knew. Kana knew. So what did he do? He just chunked the Olaf and ran away. Because he knows even if Canyon doesn't kill them,
he's won.
Olaf is fucked.
Yeah.
He does not get to lane anymore after that invade and not recalling. He is going to have it not lane. He's just going to have a very uncomfortable laning phase because Rumble's going to crash the wave, base, buy a fucking blasting wand, walk back, Olaf's going to fast push the wave, and then from that point onwards, Rumble's going to keep slow pushing waves every single time, and Olaf will never get to interact with him because he just gets one-shot by Rumble at this point of the game.
For sure. All right, my second question, because we've just We've just done a mini podcast on the first question.
Oh man, I'm telling you right now, like you can cut out whatever you want. I'm just saying, if you do an interview with me and you let me talk about whatever the fuck I want, it'll be 2 hours long.
I'm gonna be more strict now.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna start. I'm comfortable with you now, so I'm just gonna start telling you to shut the fuck up on some of the questions.
Go ahead. I don't want.
There's a period of time where you were kind of known for your Rengar, like you played it quite a few times, and I wanted to ask, do you think your natural aptitude for this champion comes from the fact that Bwipo, the name, actually comes from your cat? You were named after your cat.
Yeah. No,
have you told that story before?
Many times, yeah. So we had a little cat. His name was People.
Yeah.
And
you had a neighbour's cat that was Grizmo, and the reason you called it that is because the neighbour's cat named after the cat.
Yeah, so he had a WoW character named after his cat, and I thought, dude, that's fucking genius. I don't have to think about an actual character name. I can use my cat's name. So I tried to put in Pippo, and it didn't work, so I just put BW instead of P, because it sounds the same.
That's not what initially happened, actually. What initially happened is there's a YouTuber, I forget the name of, COD YouTuber called ZZIR something.
Yeah, ZZR Grizz, I think. Yeah, that was the guy.
That's initially what happened, and then he switched into Bwipo.
So my childhood friend, he named his account ZZR Grizmo. Yeah. Because it was like, his cat's name was Grizmo. So I was like, dude, I'll be ZZR Bwipo. I don't fucking care. That sounds sick. 12-year-old me. and then after a certain point, obviously the COD guy fell off. I mean, I had to name change.
And you fell on.
I had to drop off the ZZR, and there you go. Bwipo was born.
For sure.
That was a mage, by the way. That was a mage gnome. ZZR Bwipo was a mage gnome. I'm pretty sure he still exists.
Someone will go and find
Now it's Bwipo.
Send him a
Human warrior. Or it might be a blood elf warrior. Because I was sweaty enough to actually
in relation to you talking so much, my next question kind of goes into this. In 2019 in the LEC, you didn't rank that highly in damage percentage share, but to be fair, not that many top laners do. One stat that you did clear everyone else in was comms percentage. You actually made up over 85% of WPM, words per minute, on the team.
Are you serious?
You out-talk everyone else in the West.
Wait, are you serious?
Have you always been a Lisa Loudmouth?
Wait, are you serious?
No, that's a stat I made up. They don't actually count how many words you...
Dude, whatever. No, but I probably had a pretty high WPM, though.
Yeah.
No, actually,
I was... tell, by the way,
I was a very quiet kid. I was a very, very quiet kid. I had almost no friends in school. The only friends I made were my brother's friends until I got to a high school. It was like the year before high school. The schools work different in Belgium. Yeah. And kids in my class played World of Warcraft and then played League. And by the time I got to that school, I was Diamond 1 on League, so they thought I was all cool because I was high elo. But up until then, I didn't really have
Your high school was called the St. Leo College in Bruges.
That is correct. 100% correct, yeah.
Which shut down in 2015, actually, or they merged it with something else.
Yeah, they merged it with something else, yeah. I mean, you've done your homework. Holy shit, impressive. So in that school, I have some IRL friends, and back then, I had an IRL friend. So this would be 2015, 2016, and he kept making jokes how it would be really insane if I joined. All of them made this joke. They thought it was hilarious because this was the Kappa era, back when Kappa was the best emote on Twitch. Rest in peace, Kappa. And they thought it would be absolutely fucking hysterical if I joined Fnatic because it was their favorite team, and I name changed to Fnatic Kappa. I did not follow through with being Fnatic Kappa.
That would have been so good.
If Kappa was already dead by then, it wasn't as funny anymore. This happened like 2 or 3 years after the Kappa was a thing.
It could be Fnatic KW. That would be so bad. That would be so awful.
I mean, I don't think Fnatic Kappa was much better. But yeah, fun theory fact. I joined Fnatic. I was not Fnatic Kappa, though.
Okay, cool. My next question...
Shout out to my homies from St. Leo.
Shout out to them. When you used to... There's an interview with you with Chronicler, the LCK caster, way back in the day when you were on Sector 1.
Oh, shit, yeah. No,
I couldn't understand any of it because it's all in Dutch. And that's
I'm
horrible
sure.
language.
That was him? Holy shit, yeah. No, it is absolutely disgusting. There's a reason I don't use the language ever. I hate using it.
And you don't use the language, but speaking of language, it's quite interesting that you had originally quite a UK accent that comes through on occasion. And if you go and watch your LS coaching video from ages ago,
you will notice it.
Very UK, but you've kind of evolved into this more European garble, as I'd like to speak.
No, I agree.
And my question here is, do you think that your lack of wanting to sound like a chimney sweep is because you prefer to get reverse swept instead?
Honestly, my accent changes depending on whoever I talk to or like the show I watch.
Yeah.
So you'll notice by the end of this, I'll suddenly have certain audio cues that will sound similar to your accent.
Yeah.
But no, I don't enjoy getting reverse swept. It fucking sucks.
I can imagine.
That's my laundry being finished. Lovely.
Shout out to the laundry.
That's a banger, by the way.
That is good. Get that on a ringtone. See if we can extract the audio from this and make it into a ringtone. Available now on iTunes.
Dude, it's a whole fucking orchestra. Look at that. It keeps going.
Gonna wait for it to stop.
I don't think it will. I think you're supposed to go there and press a button.
Oh, fucking hell. Mephisto. You go and. Oh, is it done? Cool.
It's done?
Okay, my next question is incredible. Not to big myself up, but it's an incredible question.
Fantastic.
Do you think that if they'd made a fanatic breaking point similar to the Liquid documentary around the time where there were so many issues, that documentary would have got more or less views than the Kim Kardashian sex tape?
I don't think we could compete with that, but we'd get close.
You get close.
It depends.
Which is saying something.
I mean, it depends on, like, I think, that
it
was
got
uncut version.
More numbers than Rain Man.
Yeah, I don't think we can compete with that. Never mind.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that popular.
Yeah,
no. But, like, we'd easily get, like, 2-3 million views on that. Like,
would it be more spicy than the Team Liquid one?
It depends on what they cut out, right? That's always the question. Because the answer is, if there's no cuts, ooh, baby.
Fair enough.
That would be 2019, 2020, like that, like the best parts of those years. Woo.
And how much? What percentage of the drama? Not drama, drama in the true liturgical sort of Greek definition of it.
Which is
theatre. In what part of the drama would you have played? How much percentage of it?
A pretty big part. Yeah. I mean, one of the reasons why drama for me was a big deal is because, like, you need drama in esports to have people be fucking honest. People are young, dumbass fucking adults, me included, that can't speak their fucking honest feelings without being absolute dickheads.
Yeah.
So rather than not speak the honest truth, I was like, at some point I realized someone was not being honest about a situation.
Yeah.
So I decided I'm gonna be a fucking cunt to get it out of everyone, because if I'm a cunt, they're gonna be a cunt to me, and when they're being a cunt, they can't not be honest, because most people when they're angry are just gonna be honest.
Yeah, the filter.
So it wasn't like a completely conscious decision. Like, I was being a cunt because I was getting frustrated. Like, I wasn't just like,
of course,
in the back of my mind, I'm just being angry, pretending. No, I was mad because we were losing, and I wanted to win no matter what. This is a story I told many times, so I don't mind sharing it again just to give you context. 2018 World's Finals boot camp. So this was
you told everyone that you could win, and no one else believed you.
No, I kept saying that, but that's not what bothered me. What bothered me was that in that boot camp, Rekkles, he wasn't honest with our jungle support. He kept getting fucked in lane because he didn't call anyone to help him. And he kept saying, well, if they don't figure it out he didn't say it. He's basically, they must know better because you guys played without me and you guys were really good. So you guys must know better. And I, like, every time I would just say, it made me seethe, but I just kept it on without. I was like, it's fine. At some point, I was playing against Keen. To this day, is pretty well known to be a really fucking good top laner. So my ego was under contest. I was playing Urgot against Akali. I got a gang from Brogsa. I was up a kill. I was 20 to 30 CS up, absolutely murdering him. I was murdering his tower. I was poking him on the tower. I sent him home. He had to recall because he couldn't play. Almost solo killed him. Barely missed. And then my AD told us all, well, I'm going to lose bot tower around 10 minutes, so if you guys want to do something on the map, you're probably going to have to go top. And I swear to God, in this cosmic... I don't even know how the universe came to this conclusion, but it did.
Possessed by red. Flash of red.
No, not yet. I was possessed by red after this.
Oh, okay.
We 3 versus 3 top lane, as if it was a fucking ARAM game. With an Urgot, and I don't remember exactly what we had, but they had like Xin Zhao, Tahm Kench, Akali sitting under their fucking tower. And I had Urgot, Rakan, Lee Sin, or something like this, trying to siege 3v3. And the absurdity of a fucking world scrim with 2 of, at the time, were considered the best teams in the world, because Africa Freaks hadn't bombed out the C9 yet.
Yeah.
3v3ing in a fucking ARAM top lane for 2 minutes straight, in which we ended up getting triple killed 3 for none, and my game was just instantly over, because meanwhile bot tower was still getting fucked 1v1, obviously, because the enemy AD had a massive gold lead. I sprinted to our review room, and I remember shouting, but I probably didn't really shout. It's just I remember just raising my voice. And I said, I refuse to play the game 4v5. This is fucking ridiculous. My AD carry does not want to call anyone to help him when his lane is fucked, and it's stupid.
Yeah.
So that was an example of me getting mad.
Yeah.
And then there's drama, obviously, because dude, I ended up playing Lucian bot lane the next scrim set, and I died 3 times in 2 minutes. And that's when we knew we need fucking Rekkles. We fucking need Rekkles. Like, there is no fucking way we can send Bwipo bot lane at this World's event. It's just not happening, guys. We are going home really fast if we do that.
Not even on Rise?
No, I mean, it was just like AD carries were fucking broken. Because, like, AD carries were fine when there was mage meta, by the way. Like, when I was playing, like, I was telling Joey, like, near the end of it, I was like, guys, like, I'm pretty sure Lucian and Varus just kind of shit on Swain and Rise. Like, it's not even close, by the way.
Yeah.
This is before the buffs, right? And then they were like,
there is a weird thing that can happen with metas where you just sort of pick up something and it's not necessarily that it's better. It's just that
everyone believes
we don't know how to play it.
Yeah, exactly. No one knew how Swain worked and shit. But like,
my question that ties on to what we're talking about now is that I didn't originally have this, but I think it's quite interesting just in light of what you're saying. How much do you think the landscape of esports and competition in general forces what is otherwise quite emotionally immature young men that might not have had, or without sounding facetiously uninterpretive or like not that I'm part of this scene or whatever, because I'm the exact same way, might be grow up, not have as many friends or be socially wired in the same way or extroverted. In what way does the spotlight and all of these different things that contribute to a career like this force these emotionally immature men to kind of grow up under the watchful guise of a wider community?
Not at all. You don't have to. You can just be an immature cunt and get mad. At the end of the day, I think maturity
You don't think you're forced to?
Yeah, no. I think maturity is the capacity to transfer a message and give feedback under extreme stress. And, well, not necessarily extreme stress, but under stress, whilst knowing that it is something that genuinely bothers you. Right? Doing that in a calm fashion, I think that is maturity. Right? Like, in a way, right? The maturity is many things, but I think that is maturity in a social setting. And I think most pro players still can't do that.
I have an interesting anecdote about this because I did an interview with Scout recently, and one of the things that he was talking about that really struck out to me that I don't think immediately would be apparent if you watched it is there was a lot of research I did about how he used to have like massive blowouts with Casa about the way that jungle mid used to be played. Like he wanted it to be very mid-centric, play around me, and Casa was also like very much pulling in the opposite direction. But Scout sort of mentioned that nowadays that he's so past those conversations of game state and constantly talking about it. Now that he plays with Tarzan, he just doesn't bother to have those conversations. It's just very much a sort of a look into each other's eyes and just know and click on that level. So I guess that comes, you kind of talking about, do you feel in a way having had so many discussions about the game, are you in a position now, especially on the advent of potentially returning to pro play, do you think you're in
100%. I mean, I think that, again, maturity is understanding that there's another person that's trying to win as well and trying to meet halfway, right? What I'm saying is the successful players will find a way to do that. They will either find a way to be okay with that. I'll give you an example. Rekkles is a very good example of a player that had this from the day I met him. He would just accept your POV and just deal with it.
Yeah.
He would not try to pull you into his POV and try to help you understand, hey, if you do this for me, I'll probably carry you. It was more like you either know that and you do it for him, or he's just going to let it be.
The thing that always interested me about that, because it's not the first time I've heard that perspective, is it's quite in contradiction of what you would assume, because he's a very young player that came in season 3, kind of hailed as the prince that was promised, so to speak, like, and then obviously dominated on such a level and was seen as like the pinnacle of Western AD carries. Yeah. So you would assume that a player like that would have a degree of ego attached to him in a way that like would mean this is the way I want to play and it's tried and tested. My lifestyle's Rekkles. Come and play for me. Yeah. Like,
the reason
why do you think that contrast is what you're trying to tell me?
That's what I'm saying. Is like that's why I mentioned him multiple times. I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot from his behavior and the way he conducted himself in the team. Oh shit! It's the Grandmaster Police. I lost 2 games in a row. Fucking hell, guys! I'm still at 84. I'm fine.
They're probably after me as well. Like fucking last night, a few nights ago, I tried to make instant noodles. And I put them in the microwave with the plastic packaging, and they almost caught on fire. And almost blew up my Airbnb. This is what I mean. Is what we're talking about. Socially immature men that go to other countries. Like it's difficult.
It's fucked up, man. No, but like I said, like I learned a lot from him. I want to clarify that. Like, I learned a lot. Like my first few months in Fnatic, I was spent watching the team. 3 months I was watching the team, and I learned a lot from him. Really, the capacity that. The understanding of I am the solution to all my problems, like that for me is what he inhibited. Yeah, and that for me is really impressive.
It's very selfless.
Said, I do think it had negative side effects when absolute peak of competition, when we're playing at Worlds against teams that are min-maxing the influence their jungler has on a lane. You're gonna need help at some point when you are constantly getting pelted by multiple people.
So I think there's a wider dichotomy that exists outside of Legends as well as in it as well, similar to what you're talking about, whereby I think you can see it implicit when you speak to some of these Korean players or these Chinese players as well.
Yeah.
To believe that you could be the best in anything, in any field, just due to percentages and due to all of these like systematic variables and variants, it has to come from a place of madness and slight delusion.
Absolutely.
Where I think the ego and unconscious drives have to override any sort of sensibility. So I think when you're talking about this level of selflessness and ability to sort of just be like, view it from your perspective and be kind of tacit and placid in your sort of approaches, I think, like you're saying, it does have its downsides, because I honestly believe when you speak to some of these players, like Faker might not express it in the same way, or like a Jackie Love would be a better example for me. Like these guys, there is a level of to believe you are the best player in the world. Like an imp is a good example.
Yeah.
That requires a level of disconnect from logic.
Oh, absolutely.
But logic doesn't serve you all the time, I feel like, in League of Legends.
No, it doesn't. I mean, just to go back from your point, like just to emphasize on your point, I think a lot of people understand it better when you look at other sports. You look at soccer and basketball, because people have played this.
Yeah.
The point is, to think that you can handle 3 or 4 men marking you in a game like that and still score, not giving a fuck that they're on you, makes you fucking a bit...
But Messi will do it.
Well, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
He's the only guy that does it. But all the people that are near him probably believe that they could if they really went and like put in the effort. Well,
so you're saying it's not just the belief that gets you there?
Yeah, no. You do need to be that fucking good, and there's not many that can be, right? And there's plenty of players that think they are, and they're really not. Let's be real. There's plenty of those.
Not naming any names.
I can't think of any names right now, honestly, but there's plenty.
Very convenient.
No, I'm serious.
I'm joking.
I don't know enough people. I don't have any friends in the scene, really, honestly.
Yeah.
But the point is there's that aspect, and then there's also the aspect of, realistically speaking, to see Messi at his best, you probably take, instead of 3 or 4 men letting him mark him, you probably just have him marked by one guy, and he's probably going to fucking carry you, right?
I think a good example, and it's an example that I hate to use because I feel like there's such a fugue and a mythology that's built around him that I think takes away from the actual skill of it. But the Shy would be a good example for me, because I think when you actually go and read into him and you talk about how some of his philosophy, I know that when I spoke to him, I talked to him a little bit about like his shared game philosophy with Dopa and people like that as well.
Okay, yeah.
He talks about how, in comparison to Naguri at the time, where he thinks was he contrasted entirely with Naguri, where he thought that what he did essentially was built upon practice builds intuition, and he views the game in like a very muscle memory kind of way. Like he is able to space and do all of these things, like similar to like a Messi. Like he's able to keep you at such a short proximity and sort of always be able to win out on this. But then it's almost a thing with him when you think about the contrast between when he was at his peak of his powers and now. It's sort of when intuition fades, right? The intuition that will serve you so well ends up being your natural enemy sometimes in League. So I guess my question would be, in relation and trying to prove that I'm actually tying this back cyclically to what we're talking about, Rekkles, do you think that the intuition that served him at one time, or the skill set that might have served him at one time, has come to be one of his biggest enemies?
I think so, yeah. I think that for him, ultimately, I mean, I'm not sure because I wasn't there, right? I wasn't there. I was on the other side of the best of 5 back in 2021, and then since then I haven't worked. Like 2020 was the last year. I think ultimately, like I said, you can be good enough to mark 3 people and still come out on top, but to be your best, it shows strength to ask other people to relieve you of your burden, so that you can do even more.
Do you feel like you have had to change or fade the things, adapt the things that are good about you as a player over the course of your career, even now?
Definitely. I think especially from going from top lane to jungle, this was a huge swap. Do you want me to elaborate?
You can elaborate, but more so I think I want to pin the question down to more so, I think there are things that we know players for, and we are very attached to them as legacies. Do you feel like you are the same player at a core, at a baseline, a foundation of DNA that you were when you started and became? So in what ways would you say that's completely metamorphosed?
League of Legends made me change that.
Fair.
Right? One of the things people will anyone that's watched me play 2018, 2019, and 2020, the first thing you think of when you think of me in those 3 years, what is it? The very first thing that I did in almost every game I played.
This is a trick question. I'm not going to get it. I'm stupid like that.
Oh, just hit me. Try me.
Unique champion picks, I think, would be one of the first things that comes to mind for me.
Regardless of what happened in the draft, I would do this very often.
Is it kleptomancy at the time?
No. Mephisto, try me. What was the one thing I always did? There you go. That guy's a Bwipo fan.
Yeah, fair enough. No, I don't know.
I would always teleport.
It's been so long since that's even been a thing.
I know. I was the guy that would show up bot first. It wasn't the enemy jungler. It wasn't my jungler. It was me. Bwipo would show up first. Because I watched so many scrims of Fnatic in those 3 rounds in 2018, and I saw Rekkles and Hilly play, and I was like, dude, if these guys have a gold lead, we don't really lose. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, I'll play my lane in a way where I'm going to slow push 3 waves, and I'm going to tell Hilly, hey, put a ward behind them. Well, Hilly was really good at this too. He's very good at getting TP wards for his top laner. So we agreed that that's what we would do. So if they're losing lane, put a ward behind them. If they're winning lane, crash the wave and let it bounce. Put a word behind them. And then there you go. Suddenly, it was like a thing. And like, if the enemy team's trying to fight and stop us from doing either of those, I TP on the wave. So either way, like, you have a top laner show up and it's like, that was my thing. That was me. That was inherently, this was what made me successful, is the fact that I identified having one of the strongest bot lanes in the region, if not the strongest, many times over the years. And I always jungled for them. I would farm my waves, help them, and then I would come back and I'd suffer for a while. Like, I would just minimize the suffering. And I think that's where my individual skills really shone through, and a lot of people don't recognize that because that's complicated, right? It's complicated to understand that me teleporting bot means I have to deal with laning against someone that is going to lane, then base, TP back, and lane again. So I had to suffer through 2 laning phases, basically.
Yeah.
Where other top laners would only play 1. Right? So they would only play 1 phase of the laning phase and then TP back and have another refresh. I would have no refresh. I had no refill. I only had 1 mag of ammo.
It's similar to what you were talking about. We talked about at the beginning of the interview, so that level of selflessness is part of why you sort of were able to have that kind of come up.
100%. It's that the fact that I looked at the other players in my team and I recognized these are guys, this is what they need. I think that's why Rekkles, Bwipo, Hilly was a lineup that made Worlds quarters 3 times in a row. Yeah. Even though we changed our mid jungle. We changed our mid, we changed our jungle. It didn't matter. We still made it there. And I told my teammates this straight up in 2020, actually. It's like, look, this is what I believe in. It's us 3. That's the formula that works. Yeah.
That's interesting. So I guess I would say then, in terms of your come up in regards to that, did you ever feel a degree of empathy when Soaz broke his wrist? Because you also broke your wrist twice when you were younger.
Yeah, I broke my wrist ice skating a lot less. A sense of empathy, in a way. I don't think it's fair for me to talk about that, though.
It's more so a joke about you.
I know it's a joke. It's just for me. It's very serious memory because this is where I got my chance, and luck for me is. It's for me. I don't believe that I was lucky. I believe I earned my chance there. There's plenty of substitutes that would have substituted that entire year. Like think about any substitute in the ULCS over the 5 years that ULCS was a thing that was actually useful. Not me.
I wouldn't be able to. Yeah.
You can't name a single one. That's why I have a lot of pride in the fact that I could show up and I did do my I was good. And people hated the fact that I knew I was good. They thought I was a cocky motherfucker. I don't care. I was good and I knew I was good. Because I watched so many Evolved. Like that's the thing, I was an in-house substitute. But the thing is, I sat in that couch like the coaches and I watched all of the scrims. All of them for months in a row. I knew why I was good. Because I saw everyone else play. The best of the best, right? Like the best in Europe. I saw them all. So, yes, funny joke. I get it. I broke both my wrists ice skating. It's much more pathetically.
Left and your right.
So when I was 6 years old, I like ice skating and I was holding on to the edge, and I broke my.
Because at your school during the summers you would go swimming mandatory, and then in the winters you would.
Yes, we would ice skating. Yeah, that was a mandatory thing. So I did that and I broke my wrist. Right, I fell. I broke my wrist. Fun fact: I was terrified after that. I was terrified. I was 6 years old. 6 years later, I was like 12. I think I might have been 10. I might have been 10. I think I might have been 4 and 10. Is that a 4 and 10 and 6 and 12?
I don't remember. 6 and 9 actually.
Oh yeah, maybe not. I don't fucking remember. Like, see, this is traumatic. I don't remember this shit. I was really scared of ice skating, and one of the teachers was like, "Just try to get on. Just try to get on." And I swear to fucking God, I put one step on the fucking ice. I slipped and I broke my wrist. Not even joking. I didn't even get on the actual fucking thing. Like, the ice skating rink. Yeah. I didn't even get on the rink. It was 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I slipped and I broke my wrist.
Yeah.
And I was literally like, at that point, I looked at our fucking teacher and I say, I'm never doing that again.
First player to break both wrists and be so mechanical.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'm that mechanical. I think I'm very cerebral. Like, I think I just know. And the thing is, I know I'm not a good mechanical player. Like, really, like if you compare me.
Do you feel inhibited by that in any way?
And it's a conscious decision. Like, I think I can keep up.
Yeah.
In certain situations, I absolutely can. But rather than that, I don't challenge people mechanically. Very rarely. I think it's why I always did well in scrims against players like the Shy and Nuggery, because I throw off people off their patterns. I don't play the same game. Like, I would challenge people to trade in very different timings, right? I would always kind of do my own thing, and I think a lot of people get thrown off by that. I never play the same. Like, I never play the same champion really the same. Fun fact: I found out that's because of my ADHD.
Really? When did you find out you had ADHD?
Last year.
Wow. Is that a new revelation? Have you talked about that much?
Well, I haven't talked about it in depth too much, but it just helped me understand why I was like. Because, for example, a really negative effect of my ADHD is that I would play against worse players than me, and I would fucking demolish them. I would scrim Ornn versus Gangplank, and I'd fucking demolish someone. Next game, I blind pick GP, they pick Ornn. I demolish them both sides.
Yeah.
Third game, I completely change my runes because I'm just bored, and I just CBA because this guy's obviously dog shit, and then I get railed. And then my coaching staff's like, "Why did you change runes?" And I'm just like, well, I don't know. I don't know, honestly. I couldn't answer it. I didn't know why.
Yeah.
Also, I would change the way I managed the waves. I would demolish someone by slow pushing 3 waves, crash, and then contesting the bounce. And then suddenly, the next game, I didn't want to do that anymore because it didn't reward my ADHD brain.
Have you been able to, since that, and it might be difficult because it might be the first time you've done this, have you, in retrospect, been able to think, wow, this is what I have now, and this is some of the conditions, and it's helped me to understand myself in more of a way.
Yeah.
Have you been able to attach that to any points in your career, like at Worlds 2018, or like any point during LEC where you think, wow, that actually, my difficulty during that time might have actually been attached to that?
Yeah, I mean, the difficulty part, I think success more so in 2018. I think one of the reasons why I was so successful is because I felt rewarded for every single game I played. So ADHD, like at least the way I feel about it, and I'm not a doctor, so I can't say this is the same for everyone.
Your reward structure is very different to how traditional brain works.
Yes. So for me,
I also have ADHD.
Oh, there you go. So I need to feel like I got something out of it, right? Like, I need to feel good about what I did. If I don't feel good about it, I don't want to do it again. Or like I have a hard time forcing myself into the repetitive behaviors. So I need to trick my brain into being like, yeah, this was fun. I want to do it again. That's how it works for me. So in Korea, when I was in Korea trying to climb high elo, that's how I tricked my brain. Because the fact that I was getting higher and higher in solo queue made solo queue meaningful.
Yeah.
The fact that I was playing against really good players, right? I was scrimming the Shy, Keen, whoever else, and I was doing well. I was performing well. This kept me going on and on and on and on. So my brain was just like constantly getting rewarded because mentally I was in a space where it's like, holy shit. So I think that's one of the reasons why 2018 I was very strong as a player individually, because I had the desire to put in the inhumane amounts of grinding, because I was really a huge grinder that year. Yeah. And that was a part of it. And then also my team. I really wanted my team to do well. That was a big deal for me. And, that's why a lot of people, they're like, I don't talk about this anymore because everyone fucking hates it when I do, but I'm going to bring it up because this is related to it. That's why my girlfriend and my relationship is a big deal, because when she's invested in my success, that makes my brain go, this is worthwhile. That's why it was such a big deal for me in those years that my girlfriend and my relationship was she was very into my success, and it was a big deal for me. Obviously, I've matured, and this is, also the public doesn't like that, so that reflects negatively on her, and I don't want that for her, right? Because I want the best for her. But really, this was one of the reasons why, I would always talk about her, and I would always bring her up, because in my brain, she was a really big reason. And a lot of people wouldn't understand that, and that's fine, because I understand now why they didn't understand that, because my brain is different.
It's sort of like, in a way, you'd almost recontextualize the relationship, not to the detriment of it, obviously in a very good way, but she was, in a similar way, giving a reward structure that was similar to a coach. Yeah. And then people were like, oh, but why doesn't he attribute that same thing to the coach? Yeah. And then when I called her, the famous thing with the World 2021 where I said she was a coach, that's just how it is for me. Yeah. That was always a big deal to me. And, it's a very negative connotation publicly nowadays, but I'm happy that I got an opportunity to explain it. It's okay to be a certified lover boy, man. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Although I did think Donda was better. That was a better album. Should have sold more. I didn't get the reference, but I know you made a reference. Someone out there will be. We'll get it. I guess my question then would be, because for you in that situation, I can understand why career would be a person with ADHD that is able to control it, very important caveat, that would be a dream destination and dream time period. But then, this might be a political landscape to navigate. I can imagine that NA is a complete hellhole for someone with ADHD, both on the solo queue level, administration level, competition level.
Yeah, you're pretty right. Yeah, you're not wrong. I can't control it that well. You know, I'll be honest with you, I wish I could.
I think you're not giving yourself credit there, because for me, someone that struggled with it, I also have like other things like depression, brain fog, things like this. My thing is the ability to recontextualize what is a reward and trick your brain, and to actually be in this kind of Tom and Jerry cat and mouse game with your game where you're actually smart enough to be one step ahead. You should give yourself more credit than you probably are otherwise, because I think that is
I just like at some point my brain catches up. Like right now, my brain caught up. Like it's hard for me to keep grinding.
Yeah.
Right now, like I'm in a period. Right, like I grinded a lot to get to Challenger. I hit Challenger, and right now I'm trying to get my brain to cat and mouse with me.
Well, you need to cat and mouse that you were in World Finals 5 years ago.
Yeah, maybe that's what I need. Like I went to San Francisco, the one in 2021, and like that motivated me a lot. So maybe I need to go to this one. Nah, I'm gonna fly home before it starts. Anyway, that's the ADHD brain randomly jumping to places. Yeah. You mentioned something about NA. My experience in NA, baby.
Where career is heaven for a boy with ADHD, NA is hell.
Yeah. Actually, you can actually see this in my career. This is when I got diagnosed and I was on medication, and I actively worked with my therapist to be more consistent as a player. Because as a player, you know me, like people say I'm inconsistent, but that's the thing. I'm inconsistent because people say I'm inconsistent because I have complete control over my consistency.
I don't think that's like, I think everyone is in control of their consistency. No?
I think a lot of people get affected by public and peer pressure.
Okay.
And therefore will not do things that they believe are the best way to win because they are worried for the repercussions.
Okay, that's interesting.
I was not
Whereas
like that.
in contrast, you've never cared about how...
I will run if I think that me running mid and ulting and I die, and I still think the next, I'll do it again on the next.
Regan, I want to give a shout out to Regan behind the camera, because one of the things he was mentioning on the car here is one of the moments he saw where what was the team he played against? Who was playing Graves?
What are you talking about?
Graves. You go and steal red buff level 2, and you walk.
I crossed the towers.
You cross the towers.
Yeah.
Who the fuck is doing that, by the way? Like,
no one. And that's the thing. Like that's what I mean. Like the social anxiety of that failing. I didn't give a fuck.
It doesn't exist for you.
I mean, it exists. I just don't care. You know, like if I fail and I look like an idiot dying there, the next day I have another. Like I can play another best of one at Worlds, and I'll do the same fucking thing if I think it's the best way to win, and I will not be affected unless one of my teammates specifically tells me, if you do that, I can't focus, I can't play well because I think you're being an idiot. And then I'll be like, well, then that's your problem, but I'll compensate for you.
Interesting.
But, like, for example, if I think Garen Yumi was the best way to win at Worlds, which I did, by the way, I actually thought it was good. I was one of the people that told our team to keep playing it in 2019, and everyone fucking hated us for playing Garen Yumi. And I went the next day and I was like, guys, Garen Yumi's not the reason why we lost. We TF ported with the Trinity Force into the bot side 3v3, and we lost to a Rise with a fucking mana crystal. It's a bigger issue somewhere else. That's what I said. And, basically, that's what I mean. Is like I hate it when people get affected by the outside sources. Because whilst other people may not get affected directly, indirectly, people are worried about the repercussions of their decisions, and I'm not.
That's fair.
Well, I'm not. It's just I consciously control when I recognize other people won't do this because they believe the peer pressure will stop them. Like they're worried about it.
I think, to be fair, and I want to challenge you on this somewhat in a friendly way, But do you think, because it almost seems like you're expecting that from other people, but when you talk about the landscape of being full of and I think you're in a somewhat lucky position in that I think, having learned a little bit about you, you come from a family with a father who's very intelligent, mother who's very emotionally intelligent as well.
Yes, 100%.
Do you think growing up in that environment, I mean, obviously you owe that to that somewhat. I mean, obviously, with what you do with your gifts is your own domain and your own inexorable, not inexorable, the opposite of inexorable, or destiny or whatever. What can other people do to develop these skills? Because it might not necessarily be, not to give people excuses, because I think the level of maturity that is shown sometimes is not conducive to what the landscape is. But
of course.
what tools can be, because to me that almost seems like an org problem, more less than a player.
Honestly, I'm gonna give you three. I'm thinking of three right now, right? So
give me something spicy. No,
some inspiration, right? So there's a Yorick quote.
Yorick quote.
There's a Yorick quote, and me and
Shakespeare.
Mephisto talked about it today. And it's not a Yorick quote that I knew for a while. I actually learned it like very recently.
Yeah.
And it's basically the maiden telling him what all the things he could be.
Yeah.
Like it goes something like, "You could be so much more. You could be infinite," and he replies saying, "I am enough."
You know,
It goes really hard. It goes really hard. Like
It
I
is
just want to
so
appreciate that for a moment because that's me.
Yeah.
Growing up, I am enough. That's it. Like I've always told me, this is the one consistent in my life that I have never not felt enough. I am a lazy piece of shit. I'm telling you right now, I am the laziest motherfucker. You think I work hard in an environment where other people need me to work hard.
Yeah.
For myself, I am lazy.
I relate to that a lot, actually. Regan's nodding right now, so he knows.
Like growing up, I played way less solo queue than everyone else. Like I was not in school, jobless, and I played less than some people in my amateur teams that were in school and had a part-time job. I was a lazy piece of shit. Somehow, I was better, I was smarter, and again, I attribute that to, like...
Coaster. I think a lot of people that are sort of in that way intelligent and sort of can get by unchecked. I felt like that in school a lot. Like, it was only really when I was about 16, I had an English teacher called Mr. Douglas, shout out to him, not that he'd ever watch this, but in the odd event that he does. But he sort of was doing a lesson with me one time, strangely on Hamlet, which is a weird segue because Yorick, Memento Mori, all of his quotes, a lot of them, I think even that one maybe, I could be wrong, is based off of Hamlet, Shakespeare.
Beautiful.
But we were doing Shakespeare, and I just like the way that he engaged me and got me to give a lot more in the lessons was we would act out the plays as we'd read them and talk about like yada yada yada. And I sort of after a few weeks of being my teacher, he was like, "You are a lot like why are you in this class? Like you should be 3 classes above. Like you like." Just immediately identified, you're coasting, like you're just here and like you're disguising yourself to like, not in a way of like being humble or anything. You're just like disguising yourself because you know that will be more work, and you know that you'll be challenged, and you know that potentially the idea of other people being better than you will eventually be exposed to you.
Yeah, maybe. Again, like I don't know what goes on in my brain. I just know that that's what I was.
Yeah.
I guess I was a coaster, absolutely.
Yeah.
Until it came to league, because I watched other people and I went like...
Do you feel like you're someone that responds to... Because, I mean, I think for me, the reason I brought that up is not to tie any analogues between us. It's more so to create a parallel in that, for me, the way in which I broke out of that was obviously being told by someone else. But I'd imagine being in a position where you'll have coaches that have told you that, and maybe it hasn't particularly shaken
100%.
you. So I guess in your life, what was the thing that made you realise, I don't want to come to the end of my career having wasted what was such a talent?
2 things. The first thing was, so you mentioned the LS coaching, right? So I didn't learn much from that coaching, but that was one of those events.
I've watched it. It's a 90-minute FF where he tells you what to do and you just go, no, actually, I think I want to do this. And he goes, yeah, actually, you're kind of right. And then you go, I want to go Demacia on them and just spin on them. It's the most useless coaching session I've ever watched.
But that was the moment I realized, because whilst I had other people watching me, I was playing against Alfari, and Alfari was 2017. It was a big year for him, right? I was playing a completely disgusting matchup. Like, Jace Gerhardt was not fair. This matchup was unplayable back then. And I was completely fine. I was 20 sets down. Like, this was in my books, that was a straight up lane smashed. Like, I smashed that lane. Again, that was my mind back then. That was one of the events. The next event was when in 2017, so this was before I did the LS thing, actually. I don't remember. It was 2016 to 2017. Faxi and... what was this? Flaxish and Faxi got fucking hired to the ULCS, and I didn't. And I was just like, these people are so fucking bad. How is it even possible? Like, that was me. Like, unironic. I was fuming. Like,
Shout
I was
out to Flaxish, by the way.
How the fuck did these fuckers get hired instead of me? Because this is just disgusting. Like, these people do not understand the game. There's no fucking way. Like, this is how I felt. And that broke me out. It's like, I cannot not play LCS, EULCS. There's no fucking way. I am infinitely better than these players. These 2 events, this is what made me truly grind. And I ended up being rank 1 I hit rank 1, and both of my accounts were top 10 for pretty much the entirety of 2017 because of this.
Wow.
Because of those. So the first thing was those motherfuckers
I still
getting
speak
hired.
to Flaxius on occasion to this day.
Yeah, well, no offense, like, I'm just saying.
No, I'm just gonna send him this clip and be like, "You made Bwipo's career."
Yeah, legit.
Yeah.
Those 2 fuckers getting hired, they
I'm not going to add the caveat that it was his ineptitude and lack of.
No, that's the thing. Like, I had an ego, bro. I had an ego because everyone has a fucking ego when you play.
Of course, especially when you're younger.
And when it was shattered to an extent of like I didn't even get an academy off. Nothing. No one knew how I was. I was a complete fucking random. And I was just infinitely better than them, and there was no arguing it. I was just better, dude. I played against Faxi in the fucking Challenger Series, and I could play any fucking matchup, and I would always come out on top. And I wouldn't smash him into the pavement or anything like that. But the point is like I could play the worst matchups in the game, and I would just not care. Like I would feel nothing from these players. And I think obviously if you're not good at competition, you don't understand. You may not understand what that expression means, but if you're good at a competition, you know when you feel something from a player. When you play against someone, you're like, hold up.
They give off that aura.
Yeah, it's like, hold up. This guy knows what he's
doing.
doing. I don't know what he's cooking, but he's cooking. That moment is those players gave me nothing, and I swear to God, I was just infinitely better already. And then, lo and behold, I put in the effort, I stopped coasting, I was top 10, both of my accounts. Fun fact, I was such a fucking random that people didn't know that Bwipo and Grismos was the same fucking person. So people would say, this Grismos guy is really good, but this Bwipo guy's fucking dog shit. I had that happen, and I was just sitting there giggling, little did they know.
That is funny. And then you thought, I better start signing up to trials as Grismo.
I mean, obviously, if I was talking to that guy, I would log into that account, of course, I was smart about it. But the point is, that is when I stopped coasting. That is when I stopped coasting 100%.
But would it be fair to say, and I mean, this might seem like an attack in some way, but I don't mean it to be.
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
It's pejoratively intrusive of me entirely, given that I don't understand anything about your life other than the hour that we spent talking. But do you feel like, because to go from Worlds 2018 to then go to NA to now be in a position where you haven't played for a little bit, from my expectation and just speaking to you, I think you're one of the smartest Western players that's ever played.
Thank you.
Which it doesn't mean much, mate. I wouldn't know anyway.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
In any case, but what degree, what do you attribute that to now? Because obviously you're not in the same position as you were.
Well, yeah, no.
After Worlds 2018, it could be assumed, that coming second in Worlds, this is the beginning of breaking upwards and upwards, and you haven't quite returned to that level just yet.
No, I think I did. I absolutely did in 2020 Worlds. I think I was at a point where there was one player in the world that would actively challenge me, and it was Bin. And let me tell you this much: if Bin is the only person that challenges you, you're pretty fucking good. I was pretty fucking good. I had one bad fucking game, Orn versus Sion. And I was that good that I played the same fucking matchup and I won it the very next fucking game in a best of 5. I'm just saying, think about that for a moment. You get shit on in a matchup, you play it the same fucking matchup, and next game, and I'm already in a much better spot than I was. And then the next game after that, I played Gangplank Vladimir, I got counterpicked, and I fucking demolished him.
Well, my question was, based off of what you're saying there, with that series and where you felt you were at the height of your powers, with Nemesis, because I think there's been a generally conceived notion that since coming to Korea, playing at that, he really upgraded. And that's not to say that he wasn't an incredible player. I think he was a top 2 mid when he was here.
Easily.
Very easily. And very, very talented and was able to hold his own in that series. And I think this question, a lot of people, I want to put the disclaimer on it, will hear this question and be like, oh, then he was the limiting factor. No, I think it's purely just because the contrast, and he is such a... there's such question marks about his skill level since coming to Korea and what would happen if he came back. So my positing in this what if comes from, if he had the power level or the skill level that he has now since coming to Korea, reaching that kind of top 10 mark, being able to compete, and I think anyone that watches it can see from the clicks, see from anything that he is just a way better player now, at least in my estimation. I think a lot of other people's opinions who I would respect. If he was at that level in that series, or even just during that Worlds, what changes? How much further do you go?
I'm going to hit you first with something, right?
Okay.
I agree with you. Actually, fun fact. And when are you going to release this?
Because it's so long, probably not in the immediate future. But
how much are you talking? Because I'm about to give you some very juicy information.
Okay, well, if it's juicy, then we can delay it. That's fine.
I messaged Nemesis yesterday.
Okay.
This is October 25th? No, 26th today.
Yeah.
And I'm 100% confident that if me and him were to play mid jungle next year, we would be the best mid jungle in Europe without even, like, there wouldn't even be a question. Like, people would look at us and be like, there's no fucking way anyone competes with these two.
Fair.
I'm confident of that.
That's very interesting.
That's to help you understand my opinion of him as a player.
Okay.
I think he's insanely good.
So what now do you think? I guess my next question would be, and this might be a difficult one to navigate, and I really, just to further illustrate, I mean, what I said to you at the beginning, there's no sort of agenda for me here, so if this is not something you feel comfortable answering, then completely. But I guess based on that, do you think that the so-called public narrative around him, because I think a lot of what we hear is Nemesis will never come back to EU because there's too much difficulty surrounding his name, he's difficult to work with, a lot of that. Do you think that comes from a place of guilt? We know what we did to this player, we know what he became. People
say that because, like I said, he is difficult to work with because he refuses to work with people he thinks are not intelligent enough.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to be honest, as much as I love him, it's a fact. He will not give you the time of day if he thinks you're dumb. He really just will not. And sometimes I think his judgment is not necessarily right.
What are the players that you would characterise? Because you're talking about, like, this is not me asking. I mean, the question essentially, what it boils down to is its foundational level. Is I'm asking you to make a dream roster, but I'd like to kind of illustrate it in a more complicated way. I think what can be interestingly explored here is you're talking about Nemesis and Bwipo being a strong mid jungle, and that's because of a ability to operate on sort of the same radio frequency. You can tune into what he is able. You can go past that. Let's say a top laner and AD carry and support. What are players in the West that you think are capable of being on that same frequency that you've worked with, or maybe have
top laners?
Experience?
But again, that's the thing. That's the funny thing, right? Is expectations. The public's expectations. They define success so much that making it to the fucking group stage in Worlds is considered to be a fucking success. You know, me as a player, making it through the group stage is the bare fucking minimum.
That's cold.
It's the bare fucking minimum. I go next year. I make it to group stage and I lose. People will think I'm a failure. I'm not even joking. This is the fucking reality of public perception in League of Legends.
Was World Finals enough?
APA is considered to be a failure. The motherfucker made Worlds. Yeah. In his first 3 months of playing. In a roster that doesn't even speak the same fucking language as him. He's considered to be bad at the fucking... The fuck are you all smoking?
I think he is someone that I think needs... for me, like, because I think he ended the second game. There's a Travis Gafford...
Oh, yeah, he went 0-9, he went 0-9, brother.
There's a Travis Gafford interview he did after that game where, like, Travis is trying to get something out of him and he's just like, I played shit. There's nothing to say. I played shit. And it's just...
The guy is good at League of Legends and he's a great guy. I'm just saying, expectations. They define...
No, also what I'm saying is, I think in that response, because there's very different ways of handling things. There's a way of which, something that I've done in the past where you use the regret and things as a shield to be like, I'm so worthless, like yada, yada, yada. And it's almost like you're using the defensive shield as an offensive, feel bad for me, feel bad for me, feel bad for me. No, he's just accountable. There's nothing to say. I played like shit. Cool. So I guess to circle back, because I think not necessarily I was asking you of players. If you were to assemble a Western super team of players that are on the same frequency, that can actually, just from a pure mentality and approach to the game, can compete, and you're saying mid-jungle Bwipo Nemesis would be the best mid-jungle in the world. How do you build the best team? How do you build the best team in the West?
So this is the thing, right? So... I have to mention Caps, right? Like, this guy's really fucking good.
But where does Caps slot into that roster?
Right, well, that's the thing, right? So the thing for me is, like, I have to speak from experience with people I've worked with. I can't say Perks, I can't say Wonder, I can't say Ankos. I haven't played with them.
That's fair.
Right, how can I judge them? I haven't played with them, only against them. So I'm going to rank the players that I know of, and that means that I'm going to use them in different roles. So I would want Nemesis and Caps to be my solo Nemesis and Caps to be my solo laners.
But who would you send mid?
I don't mind. At the end of the day, I would want them to be flexible in that, in a perfect world.
In like sort of a Crepper Froggen way.
Sure. Not the best example, but sure. Just, like, I would want them to be flexible because I think that they both have their strengths and weaknesses when it comes to that. But yeah, like, they would be my solo laners, again, purely because out of all solo laners I've played with, they are the best, and I have every faith that both of them could role swap to be one of the best solo laners one of the best top laners in Europe tomorrow.
AD like he did before?
No, there's no need. Like I said, I would personally, I would play with Rekkles. I would have Rekkles, Hilly, Bwipo, Nemesis, Caps. That would be from the people I've worked with. Now, this wouldn't work because
Rekkles is players supports now as well.
Well, yeah, and again, that's my vision because again, I think Rekkles' weakness is like I think I was really good at seeing when he needed things, and he just didn't voice those needs as like in the game, and I would just give them to him quietly. I would just quietly provide that for him.
Can I ask you about Caps? Because for me, the interesting thing about Caps is his. Like when you speak to him, and I think when you are in a room with him, or even if for people that might not have access to that, and like watch a lot of online interviews with him, or just like things that go a bit deeper in, he is a very strange guy. I feel like in the, and that's not a demeaning comment in whatsoever, but I'm also meaning that he's like very sort of. Just there is a childlike whimsy almost attached to a ferocious skill that is so in direct contrast to anything in the West. Actually, strangely enough, I'm not sure if I want to make that comparison. But in any case, it's very difficult to understand the kind of person he is. And it's especially interesting because if you meet his dad almost is very, you can see him in his dad.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot. And I just, from having him as a teammate, because you hear so many stories about him, like, he doesn't believe in having a phone, so he had to read the oven time when he was waking up for Worlds when he was in China, and so much of these things. Like, he does almost feel like this wunderkind, this almost just fell from Mars on Earth to play mid in the West. Like, can you touch on sort of a little bit about Caps and understanding him in ways that maybe people don't?
I only played with him for a year, right? So at the end of the day, like, I don't think we had I don't think we had an extremely good relationship.
Yeah.
Like, an extremely good relationship would be Emil and Hillesang, right? If you ask me questions like that about Hilly, I'd be able to answer them. But, like, with Caps, I think he was just really fucking good and worked really fucking hard. And I believed I was really fucking good and worked really fucking hard.
Yeah.
Right? So it just worked, right? When it comes to, like, his view of the game, it's like I have never spent enough time with him to understand it fully.
That's interesting to me because I feel like I get that impression somewhat that he's not someone that will espouse his sort of philosophy constantly.
I think, maybe not. Maybe in G2 he did that, which is why they were also extremely successful. I'm not sure. Like, I would love to.
Well, I think from playing with a year of them, that would be enough time.
I know
to
for a
understand
fact
his
that he actually.
Because I guarantee you, everyone else on Fnatic during that time, even if they only played a year for you, know your philosophy on the game.
Oh yeah, sure, that's true.
And they probably know Nemesis' philosophy as well.
I'm not. Yeah, maybe. You could be right. I don't know. That's the thing. That's the Caps is a mystery still for me. But I know.
I think that's what I'm hinting at here, and I think I might be pushing too hard, and it's unlucky that you maybe don't have that. But I think that he is such an enigma in that way.
Oh yeah, he is. No, absolutely. And I cannot say. I cannot speak to what kind of enigma he is because I don't have that experience.
Do you think that his level? I think there's a lot of Twitter analysts like to talk about how, because in the history of it you had. There was you had Peke, and then he sort of handed over the reins to Caps, and then Perks was also around. It was this constant, and then Nemesis. It was this constant, and we haven't really had that next mid pop up yet. I think there's a few rookies maybe and a few players.
Yeah, they haven't made the international breakthrough.
Exactly. So do you think that? That's not necessarily a question about intake in players, because I think that's a problem in of itself, and another question, but maybe for another day. But do you think that because a lot of people say that, the Caps of his heyday isn't the same Caps now, and Caps can't quite compete with. Because when I spoke to Chovy, he was like, Caps isn't a top 5, top 6 LCK mid laner.
Yeah.
You don't think he's kept up?
Trust.
What?
Trust.
What do you mean?
The same trust isn't there.
Interesting.
I think Hilly and Caps, I think this is what I was saying. Hilly and Caps are very similar in this. When they truly believe they can play a slow game, they are not inconsistent. They are ironclad. They will make plays that will literally make you go like, holy fuck. Remind you of a series, I think it was 2020, right? There was G2 versus Gen G, the one where he was playing Silas and stole Leon ult.
Yeah, I remember that.
Very quiet game, and suddenly he just takes over, kills everyone. That kind of performance from Caps is what people talk about, right?
Yeah.
Is like where
he's ironically similar to how people talk about Chovy, right?
It's just a quiet game that evolves into like, holy shit, Caps kills everyone. Right? And that is real trust. Knowing that the game will be stable enough for you and that you will be not only given opportunities to take over the game like that, but also be allowed to create them. In my opinion, this comes from trust. Now, obviously, to a certain extent, it's like, the level of other players will come into part. And obviously, like, yeah, it's going to be easier to do that against a weaker team when your team is stronger, and vice versa, right? Like, having a quiet game like that where you explode and take over a game is really hard to do against the best teams in the world, right?
I guess that's interesting for me because you're talking about it being a trust thing, whereas I would think for G2 to be a franchise that made that decision between Perks and Caps, for G2 to be an organisation that has built around Caps and has sort of enabled over the years so many of these weird picks to be played, not just by Caps but by Broken Blade as well, you would infer from that there is a level of trust there. But what do you think? Because what you've said is in direct contradiction to, I think, what the public narrative would be.
My point is the level of trust that was built from
between
players from the competition that G2 and Fnatic had, that rivalry. I really think you have to consider we scrimmed every week, pretty much.
Wow.
Right? You have to think about that. Like, every week we didn't play each other. G2 and Fnatic would scrim each other regularly over 2018, 2019, 2020. And internationally, we would scrim each other. We would scrim each other. We would play best of fives against each other. We'd play best of ones against each other.
I spoke to BB about this, and he was sort of saying, I tried to word it in a very political way, but I sort of said to him, at what level do you feel like you suffer internationally by the fact that you are so miles ahead of every other team?
Yeah.
And yeah, he sort of answered, yeah. So
my point is the trust that was created from beating us, in a way, like that G2 team beating that Fnatic team.
Do you think the fact that you were able to be consistently that number 2 or sometimes dipping into that number 1 pole position meant that you acted as a litmus test to the East?
Oh, absolutely. We made them have that trust because we were also building that. Like, I believe that. I truly believe that. That was necessary to beat that team.
Interesting.
And they needed that to beat us.
Yeah.
Not every best of 5. Sure, there were some best of 5s where we got fucking rolled 3-0. I remember my Zach game where I went 0-2 in 2 minutes. That was legendary, really. I'll be the first one to remember it, and like I'll be the last one to as well. Like, I will always remember that game. But the point is, think of like Faker and Bengi. When's the last time you had seen Faker play those games? Like, those really quiet games where he's just farming, and suddenly Faker's everything. Every time you look on your screen, it's all Faker.
Is it similar to Faker? Do you think he's capable of doing that still?
I think he's capable of doing that, but in his team, that is not what his team needs. His team does not need a guy that is played around to a point where every piece moves towards Faker, and it's Faker's game. No, Faker is...
But people still have the same expectations of Faker.
Exactly. Though. But the thing is, in his team, it's the complete opposite, which you saw when Poby played. Faker needs to spread himself so thin because all his other players are constantly trying to do things that he needs to babysit this guy. Make sure he can do that.
That adds extra weight to the whole meme of Faker and his Horcruxes, almost. That he is splitting his power across the map.
Yeah, because he needs to help everyone. You saw it. Poby played, and the map was unplayable for T1. They got railed by every fucking team in the league.
Suddenly every player that individually you would consider top 4 in their role minimum or top 3 became...
Top 2, let's be real. Those guys are fucking stacked. Like, T1's fucking stacked still.
I think Owner was the only one that I maybe wouldn't consider top 2.
Sure, maybe, if you want to, but I would. Yeah. So I'm just saying. My point is just like... A lot of people don't understand the dynamics of a team and what a player is asked to do, and people don't realize that Broxa, Hylissang, like Hilly in 2018. Did you think he was an inconsistent player? If you did, then you weren't. That's
the other thing about Hilly that's so interesting, and I actually little spoiler here.
Well, before you go on about that, did you think I was an inconsistent rookie?
No.
Because that's what I was asked to do. 2019, suddenly I got asked to do very different things. Yeah. Because Caps wasn't there to be crazy anymore. There weren't crazy things happening on the map, and you still have to PvP in a PvP game. So when 2 people are trying to farm up and try to carry a game, the PvP is going to have to come from someone else.
So you're talking about trust. Is there any particular game or example you want to give towards?
Oh, absolutely. There's many. But 2018, Spring Finals, my first finals I played, it was, I believe, Game 2? He was playing Rise? I think it was Game 2. He was playing Rise. Game 3? I don't know. It was Game 1, 2, or one of the 3. He was playing Rise. Caps was playing Rise. And the enemy team was trying to force Baron.
Yeah. And
Caps just did not TP. Actually, look it up right now. Like, look it up. It'll take you 2 seconds. Just look it up. It's a beautiful game. It's a beautiful game. And that's what I mean. Like, that level of trust, of the point, like, he would just not tell it. Like, they're doing Baron 4v5. And there's me and Hilly. Like, it was Game 3. I remember, because Hilly was playing Janna. Game 3, he played Janna. And he was just hitting he was just pushing on side lane, and then he would just start hitting the nexus, and he would just not TP, and suddenly the game was unplayable for the enemy team because we just stopped their Baron. We pressured them 4v5. There's a Janna that's playing like a little psychopath. There's a Sion that's playing like a psychopath, because we trusted that this was the way to win. Don't get me wrong, and that came from Vitality. That Rise split pushing trust that this would win us the game That was Jizuke on Rise making Vitality play like that. And when Vitality did that to us, we were like, we need to do this too. Like, this shit's broken.
Interesting.
So what I'm saying is competition in its own region.
And you must have learned a lot from Jizuke as well, because he's Italian, and you grew up in an Italian restaurant, didn't you?
Fucking hell, shut the fuck.
Adriatico, I think was the name.
Yeah, no, that is the name of it. Yeah, no, true. Colin Farrell ate there, and I couldn't be fucked to go say hi to him because I didn't give a fuck who he was. I wanted to play RuneScape.
Wow. And actually, ironically, despite it serving great Italian food, all you ever asked your main chef Lorenzo to make you was mashed potatoes and fish sticks.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Wow, I mean, you must have talked to my brother. I fucking know it. Fucking hell. No, that's 100% correct. Yeah, and he would do it during service. Rest in peace, rest of soul. He passed away because he drank way too much beer. Like, yeah, it was not good. Rest in peace. Nah, he drank a lot.
Stairs.
Dude, guy's a legend though.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway.
You got the game? Feels very morbid to segue from a man's death to a League of Legends game.
Yeah, no, yeah. Anyway,
game 3 of the summer.
Give me a timestamp. Give me a timestamp on the vault. Give me a timestamp on the vault.
Please, quickly.
What? 27-17 in the actual game time. Go watch it, anyone that's watching this interview. And this is what Trust looks like. This is what was built from our competition. This is what we had to do. This is what great Rise play looked like. Because we were shown that by Vitality and Jizuke. And this is the thing. That level of play, that level of competition doesn't exist anymore in EU. It doesn't exist in NA either. People don't push each other like that. And of course you're going to walk over to fucking Asia and get absolutely railed. Not to mention that, like, the thing is you would bring these elements, these concepts, and you would play them in your international scrims at an event like Worlds, at an event like MSI, but you would also level up because the servers are better, so the players individually need to be better consistently. Because if you want to get to a high MMR in these servers, you need to play really fucking well consistently. My point is, Caps doesn't carry as hard as he does, either of one or two reasons. One, he doesn't feel like he can trust his teammates to actually have those performances.
Or the other way around.
Or he has to spread himself too thin, because what is defined as success within those teams is that. When do you remember a 2018 carry performance from Bwipo? Fucking never.
Couple Victor games.
Victor bot lane?
No. Oh, no, this is after, actually.
Exactly. Victor, my friend, I played one Victor game on stage. I played Victor top. I don't think that was a hard carry performance. I was on your screen a lot because I was fighting a lot, but I don't think I ran the game alone. My team was really good. That's my point. You can't think of hard carry performances because I was not a hard carry player on that team. My job was to stabilize the game for the real carries.
This is interesting because I think the public narrative around a lot of these Western teams, a lot of the time, is always about, wow, the reason why Fnatic and G2 made it to these back-to-back finals is because, wow, they've just reinvented the game on their own terms and they made the East turn up with them. That seems to be true to an extent, but it seems way more importantly what you're talking about is the ability to compete each other on that level.
Yes.
Similar to the sister teams of 2014 where they were able to scrimmage each other in-house, you and Fnatic were almost like a sister team of that time.
We and G2, yeah. I was on Fnatic.
G2, yeah, of course, my bad.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, like some of the strategies were created by Fnatic or G2, and then when we scrim each other, we're like, holy shit, this is broken. We need to do this.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, that's our meta in the scrims. And suddenly, every other team that's getting shit on by us starts trying to do it too.
So the way to save EU, ironically here, and I mean, I feel almost as if in this very embalmed room, we are almost proverbially Cassandra.
Before you talk about saving, why do you think Mad Lions weren't that good?
Well, based on what you're saying, it would come down to a lack of...
No one challenged them as that much.
Yeah.
I don't, like... Maybe it's also their players that don't hold the pressure as well. Don't get me wrong, I think when you go to Worlds, you need to fucking sponge pressure like crazy. Like, you are going to scrims, everything that you thought worked, the matchups you believed were good, and this is the thing, this is another layer to it, right? It's like, let's go one layer deeper. Not just game strategy and team strategy, but individual strategy. The matchups that I played against Wunder, right? So I would play Swain Rise, and it would be a hard matchup for me. As Swain. I played Swain Rise against any other EU top laner, I'd fucking humiliate them.
Yeah.
On the Swain side, which is the hard side.
Yeah.
I needed someone to keep me in check. He was that guy. On the flip side, that's necessary too, because suddenly you go like Broken Blade, he's probably playing a bunch of matchups where he wins both sides, and suddenly you play against one of those Asian motherfuckers that's a little bit good at the game, and you go like, this matchup that I thought was winning the entire fucking year is
It's like how you talked
hard.
about Bin completely contextualizing the Jax matchup.
Yeah, it's really hard. Because you're playing against players that's just way fucking better.
Yeah.
So I had that guy in Europe that would always be able to play at a level that would make the matchups difficult. Funnily enough, we also had Alfari. He was capable of hanging with the matchups 1v1. His struggle was the fact that 5v5, the guy was completely dizzy. So, like, it didn't matter that he would shit on you in lane because I would just like, well, I'll go down 20 CS and I'll win anyway. The guy can't 5v5 for shit. Sometimes he doesn't even want to. He doesn't even show up. He's like, all right, well, guess I just win.
Yeah.
Just being real with you, you know?
But then the difficulty, and sort of what I was going to say is, proverbially in this room, it sort of feels as if we are the Cassandras or arbiters of truth. I mean, are you familiar with the fable of Cassandra?
No.
It's sort of a Greek, or is it Roman? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. Someone will correct me in the comments, some fucking nerd. But Cassandra is basically like a gossiper, like knew all of these things, and was cursed to basically know everything by the gods.
Yeah.
Or make prophecies about what would come, but her curse was that no one would listen to her. So she would predict the future, and no one would listen. So it feels almost in the solution seems to be. I mean, not to say that it would work, but I mean at least a proverbial.
Exactly. Like it's not like
it's not a guaranteed.
I am speaking from my knowledge.
Okay.
But the point is, it's a combination of both. How to save Europe? I don't know. Like I said, like at the end of the day, I
think the only solution is. I mean, I run an esports org called Ruddy. That's what this is all. We do interviews. We also have an esports org that plays in the NLC. Guys out there, how much is an LEC spot? 25 mil, 30 million?
Yeah, fuck it. Let's
crowdfund 30 mil, and let's get Bwipo and Nemesis on a team. Come on, guys, crowdfund.
I mean, like I'm saying, we still need more players, right? Like, let's finish up.
Cool. I mean, I think we've had a fucking good discussion about a lot of different things.
Absolutely.
You're coming back. Is that on the record that you're looking to come back?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm playing out of the jungler or top lane. Whether it be like I said, like I believe.
Talk to me about very briefly, like what. Because you spoke about Nemesis and Bwipo jungle would be good.
Nemesis and Bwipo top lane would be good too.
Yeah, of course. But what are the pros and cons for you right now, and what are you teetering towards? Like, because
I mean, for me, I want to play with Hilly, 100%. Like, people think that like, just like my meme talking about my girlfriend, that's like something I made up. It's not something I fucking made up. It's I believe that. Same with me and Hilly. Like, dude, everything that you see me do, all the TPs I fucking did, is because when Hylissang had a gold lead, he'd win me the fucking game. Shocker. When I went jungle, what did I do? I gave Hylissang a fucking gold lead, you donkeys. What were the people in the LEC not good enough to stop? Hylissang. To this day, there's one support player in the fucking region that can stop him when he's on point. Granted. Again, why is Hylissang not on point? I mentioned it. Trust. Hilly was a player that 2018 was hyper consistent.
Yeah.
He would play every game and you would never, very, very rarely see him int. I remember one of the games where he inted, and guess what? It was me that made him int, because me and him inted together. We were both in 0-6-0. Because we trusted each other. No matter what, we would follow each other's play. I started to play, he'd follow. He'd start to play, I'd follow. But the reverse of that is he trusted that Caps and Rekkles would win us the game in 2018.
2580. Why you just interrupted his point to say?
Yeah, it's fine. I don't mind.
I want to make sure I get the last.
Yeah. So Rekkles and Hilly. So Hilly trusted that team that we would win when the game went late. Suddenly, he becomes an inconsistent player. Shocker, I wonder why. He probably doesn't, like, think about it for a fucking second. If you're a player that is really fucking good, you want to have the ball. What's the equivalent of the ball in League of Legends? Making the play.
Yeah.
So you'd rather take the fucking ball, shoot it, miss it, than have some fucking random, and by the way, okay, random is a bit extreme, but someone that you've seen.
But I think a lot of what you say,
times,
ironically, like, is very akin to like a very, like when you were talking to something before that gave me chills. It's like very Michael Jordan-esque in that.
Yeah.
I will take accountability and give me the ball. Don't give it to this guy. Like I want to shoot the ball, and also you returning to Hilly is like Scottie Pippen linking up with MJ again.
Yeah.
Like,
dude, I believe in it. Because that's the thing. Like, I gave him the ball. He made sure we won. And I gave him the reassurance that he would get the ball. So even if he felt like, oh, shit, the game's falling out of control, I'm not getting the ball, I would make sure I created timings in the mid-game. As the little Aatrox walking from fucking base, I would just waddle over to Hylissang, and I gave him the ball. Because me and him together, that was a ball. That would work. We'd just roll it. Nemesis is off in the side lane doing whatever. Rekkles farm in midway. We don't give a fuck. We're the ball. We're making plays. For better or worse. And that's the thing. That trust does not... he has not built that with other players on his roster the same way that we had that. And of course he's going to play worse, man. Like, shit. You think Michael Jordan would be as good if he didn't have all the people backing up the way they did? Yeah, he'd be really fucking good. But he wouldn't be the absolute best undisputed GOAT. That's what I believe, fundamentally, right? And I could be wrong. I don't watch basketball, so if he was that good, then he was that good. Props props to the lad. Amen.
The lad is crazy.
Props to the lad, man. If you're that good, you're that good. Some players are like that. Chovy, sorry, but that guy's just that good. He don't need the fucking ball. He is the ball.
Good.
He is just that fucking good. What can I say?
He gave me the coldest answer. I interviewed him the other day, and I was talking about how he's the leader of the Church of Chovy. So, like, when he takes Ocean Soul, does he worry that the rains will come down, like when Noah's Ark was on the world, like in divine retribution? And he just goes, you shouldn't be worried now, but when I win worlds, you can worry. And I was just
my point is, he is that good. Faker was that good.
Yeah.
You know, Hillia once upon a time may have been that good. Caps may have been that good. Nowadays, maybe not. The point is just like, I think
it all goes back to, and I think a very key theme in this interview has been, what is the interpretation of success?
Yes. Just being good, so good that you can do everybody's job and still execute like you're the best. Think of MJ, think of Messi, think of Ronaldo maybe. Again, I don't watch the sports enough to... I'm guessing these are the people, because these are considered to be the goats of all goats, right? Yeah. They're the greatest of the greatest. That is
Tiger
why.
Woods.
What?
Tiger Woods.
Sure, why not? The point is regardless of circumstance, they were the best. Regardless of how much burden and how many players they had to outplay, they would outplay them and still do it. That is extreme.
Yeah, for sure.
For a player like me, that's not me. I was never that good.
My final question, because you've got to scrum soon.
Sure.
Is well, there was one joke that I missed that I want to tell now. Is
Go ahead.
You had the infamous meme about being wide Bwipo. Did you go to NA to become wider Bwipo?
No, I actually wanted to slim down. Wide Bwipo happened because I had the most degenerate practice schedule I've ever had, which is why I also said that I was extremely good at Worlds 2020. I would wake up 11:50. And I would shower, and then in 9 minutes, I would show up downstairs at 11:59 for our meeting.
That's how I used to go to school.
Yeah, no, same. And I recreated this, and then I would play scrims. So I would play a solo queue game after the meeting, and then I would play scrims, and then I'd eat for 1 hour.
Yeah.
And then for the rest of the day, after I ate, I would play until 2 a.m., like 1:30 a.m., and I'm getting fucking cold. Fucking hell, 1 second. Let me just mute this real quick. California, what the fuck is happening?
It's Team Liquid.
The fuck is this? I don't think so. Anyway, let me put this on silent real quick. Sorry about that. I noticed it like earlier, but
It's like Bwipo. We've heard through the grapevine. We've heard through the bugs we've got in your room. You were talking shit about NA.
Anyway, the point I was trying to make is so I would play until 1:30 a.m. and I'd order a cheeseburger and a salad, and I'd eat that, and I'd keep playing until 5 a.m. And then I'd go sleep at 5 a.m. and wake up at 11:50. That's why 11:50 I woke up.
With the changes in your life now, coming back to, are you ready to cement your legacy as one of the best Western players of all time? I think you already have, but I think maybe just because of recency bias, it might be.
No. The reason why I'm not cemented is
you're coming back to win.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm not even coming back with the intent of I'm as good as I used to be back then. I'm coming back as a challenger. You know, like I'm the new kid on the block. I go back to Bruges, Belgium.
You come back with the intention of
I am new here.
The minimum is for me to be as good.
No, the minimum is for me to be better. I am worse right now, and I'm coming to shit on these people the old-fashioned way, which is from the bottom, chop off heads until you chop off the top.
Was that part of your break? Because I think was part of your break then motivated by I need to experience what it is to go from bottom to top again?
No, I mean that wasn't it. The break was really just because I was just in a state where I think I would benefit from it. Ideally, it was only 6 months.
Even if it wasn't your intention.
I'll explain to you what happened in my break. In my break, at the peak, when I lost with Team Liquid, I was so focused on what other people could do better that I stopped thinking about what I could have done. That entire year, I was so focused on this guy should do this better, this guy should do that better. And the thing is, and this was inhibited from my jungle stint, because as a jungler, that's what you do.
Yeah.
A jungler, you are pathing towards lanes. You're constantly looking at your teammates' lanes. You are seeing when they are mismanaging your wave. You are seeing when they are not using their advantage better, optimally.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe not every jungler can do that, but I can. I'm a laner. You know, I lane.
Yeah.
So I can see when my mid laner doesn't use his advantage the way I think he should, or the way that is considered to be optimal in a League of Legends game. Right? When my AD does that, when my top laner does it, whatever, I can see that.
Yeah.
So that's what I was doing. I was constantly challenging people, hey, you're not using your lead in this way. Is this conscious? Are you doing this because you think it's better? I would talk to people, I would challenge them constantly. As a top laner, I tried to do that.
Instead of just being, hey, fucker.
Yeah, dude, you're shit. Where was I?
You were talking about...
what? So my break and what it did for me. Yeah. Fantastic.
The mic's not on, by the way.
I'm going to use it anyway. I'm gonna use it anyway because I'm in the vibe. So the point is, I was so busy thinking about what everyone else could do better that I stopped thinking what I could do better. And it turns out, as a top laner, you need to just like be a little stupid psychopath that thinks about only himself and what.
Top is the samurai role. It's about sort of cleaning the blade,
playing better yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Chop wood, carry water.
Chop wood, carry water.
I was not chopping wood and I was not carrying water. I was looking at everyone else chopping wood and carrying water and thinking to myself, these are not optimized chopping wood and carrying water strategies. And as a result, that poisoned my way of thinking as a top laner to a point where in this bootcamp, I realized when I was stuck at 200 LP that this is what I was doing. I was looking at my teammates in solo queue and was like, this guy's not very good. He should be doing this and this instead. And then Mr. Mephisto helped me here. And
shout out to Mephisto.
Shout out to Mephisto. He helped me. He's like, dude, chop wood, carry water. It's on you. You are the person that will have the most influence.
I'm very excited to see where you end up, and I will just say that I don't go back to NA, mate.
Again, I very likely will not. But the thing is like at the end of the day, like I said, right, like I'm a human being, right? So I want to go back to Europe, but I want the team that I go back to Europe to have discussions like we just had and understand that I know what it takes to build a winning team and pick winning players.
Guys, I'm not saying that he's just said that I'm capable of having discussions better than the best European teams, but that is essentially what he's just said.
Yeah, some of them, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's just
not the jokes.
No, I'm serious. And not all of them, maybe, but some of the teams I speak to, they're just like, yeah, no, we think this player is good, and I'm just like,
why?
No, not even. Just, I guess you don't know how. I guess your monitor's off, you know. All right.
Cool. In any case, it's been a wonderful interview. One of the longest, the longest one I've ever done. And likewise. I really appreciate having spoken to you. Man. And this has been Ruddy Esports with the SAC as well. Shout out to Dom. Do you have any words for Dom?
Thank you for sponsoring this. I had a fantastic discussion. I actually never watched any of your content because I wanted to come in fresh because you told me.
I appreciate that. That's good.
Right,
that's
so
good.
I didn't know what the fuck to expect. And Mephisto made it sound like I was going to get absolutely grilled, which, to be fair, sometimes happened. But I like that. I really enjoyed it. Like this reignited my passion for interviewing, which is something I used to have.
To be fair, mate, there's a lot of interviews that are quite shit. So the same way that if we did a reverse podcast, it would be me talking about how shit I think some of the people who make content and interviewing. And
there you go. So again, like I was very passionate about interviewing because a lot of the people that I used to get interviewed by like were really good, and because of the esports like ecosystem not being as profitable, a lot of good interviewers don't interview anymore, and the people that like. And the people I did do interviews with were people I liked. So don't get me wrong, like the people that interviewed me in NA, like I probably liked you. But there's a lot of people that I didn't want to do interviews with because they just weren't very good.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, yeah.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you taking the time to speak to us, and Ruddy up. Peace out.
Peace out.
Peace out. Cool, that was really good.
This was great. Honestly, I like I said, genuinely, like it's been a really long time since I walked away from an interview and genuinely thought to myself, like, fucking hell. This was an opportunity for me to be myself and speak everything that I believe in.
Are you still recording? You know, it's been recording.
Yeah, I'm saying, in a setting